Guys went down. Guys stepped up again. That's the sign of a really good football team, man. Really good football team in the division on the road. Right? In the division on the road. Give yourself a round of applause. All right, hey, football team. That's what you're becoming right here, man. That's important. All three phases factored into this win right here. Right? Important. And when we had them on the ropes, you did what you had to do. Right? You did what you had to do. Our game, man. Our game. We just keep getting better 1 week at a time.
Play football, that's it.
Nothing else. Right, love y'all. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Resilient damn football team right here, man. I'm so proud of you guys, man. That same process every week. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into Week 3 of the Sean McDermott Show presented by Kaleida Health. Thanks for joining us. And, Sean, thanks for spending a couple of minutes with us. You got off to the fastest ever 2-0 start. 2 games, 5 days, 2-0 start, 34-28 over Arizona, 31-10 over Miami on Thursday Night Football. What's been the most impressive thing about this start?
Well, I think some of the resiliency of the football team. The football team's new every year, and then this year with a lot of new faces. Never really sure how things are going to go, how people are going to react, how the team's going to react. And so first game, I think, more than anything, we get down 17-3, and we kind of just grind our way back. So that's a step for this new football team. And then this past week, short week, on the road in the division and against a good football team, and we handle business the way we're supposed to. So a lot of good threads early on here.
Yeah, a lot of new faces, but one familiar face is Josh. He's had 2 different types of games. In week 1, when you got down, dug yourself the hole 17-3, he kind of puts his cape on and does all that stuff that we talk about. 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 throwing touchdowns, 232 yards, the whole thing. And then week 2, a little bit more of a, so he's a game manager kind of guy, that guy, 139 yards passing, 1 touchdown, only threw it 19 times, but it was actually a much bigger and a more comfortable win than the first one. How do you describe this 2024 version of Josh?
Well, it's interesting. It's almost like he's going to do whatever the game calls him to do. And whatever the situation is, he's going to do the job that the situation calls for. So I really think he's been in command and in control in the pocket. He's made some really good decisions. And then when needed, he's made some really good plays, some plays that only Josh Allen can make. So I think he's off to a good start.
So we talk about James Cook. In week 1, 19 rushes for 71 yards and 3 catches for 32. Week 2, 95 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns in the first half, snapped off a 49-yard touchdown run. I mean, what more would you like to see from James Cook that you haven't already seen?
Off to another good start. Almost every run he makes in practice, all the way going back to OTAs into training camp as well, and then now every week he's trying to get past 8 yards. He's trying to get it to 80, and I think that's a habit, and then that's starting to show up in games, which is what you saw this past week.
Your offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, 2 games into this everybody eats approach, kind of seems like it's working. James got off to a great start. Josh has been spreading the football around. Khalil Shakir has had some really timely catches and been really reliable in the passing game. Keon, your rookie, was your leading receiver in the first week of the season. How does this offense and what it's done so far measure up to your expectations?
They're off to a good start. When you can run the football and establish the line of scrimmage, it sure opens up everything else. And our offensive line has done a good job of that early on here. And that'll be important for us as we continue to move forward. And I think the versatility is really good for us. Not really sure who's getting the ball or where it's going. There's games where some receivers have not been targeted at all. Not many of them. And yet the next game, they're our leading receiver or the top 2. So I think that really bodes well for us as we move forward also.
So let's talk about Jamarcus Ingram for a minute. So he's seen his 7th game of his career. He's been on the practice squad. Comes in, has 2 picks, one of which he takes to the house. And at the end of the game, and one of the, it's like a dream come true. Yeah. Right? It's like storybook. And then in his biggest moment, he says, hey, I got a bunch of teammates I love and who love me. What's it mean to you to hear a guy say that about this culture in his biggest moment saying he's just glad to be a part of it.
Well, we talk at times about it being more than just football, right? And they are more than football players. It's what we all do, but really who they are goes beyond football. I know you experienced that as an alum. You know, that's what you want for the guys. The relationships that they've built will last a lifetime, and that starts with loving one another and caring for one another. So when you're unselfish like Jamarcus is, it just happens naturally.
So some of the other guys on the team, the pass rush, Greg Rousseau, 3 sacks in week 1. It was a big story. He had a forced fumble. Vaughn had a sack in both of those games, weeks 1 and 2. And Ed Oliver had the most timely, exciting sack on a 4th down in the Miami game I can remember. It was right on time, right when you needed it. Through 2 games, what has been the difference in this pass rush?
You know, I think, again, it's kind of similar maybe to our wide receiving core with some of the versatility, some of the variability of guys' skill sets and who shows up in what part of the game, and yet they're all working together so that the sum of the parts is better than the individual pieces. So I think that's off to a good start with more room for growth as well, and they make the most of it.
All right, Coach, we're going to catch up with you later in the show to get your final thoughts on what it's going to take to beat the Jaguars on Monday Night Football. For those of you at home, stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Game Plan is presented by Energy Mark. Trust Energy Mark for renewable energy supply.
When we come back, Eric Wood breaks down the top plays from the big win over the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. Later on, Reid Ferguson is mic'd up for the win in Miami.
Chopping Wood is presented by St. Bonaventure University, an official education partner of the Buffalo Bills.
Welcome back to the Sean McDermott Show. It's time for another edition of Chopping Wood with our good buddy Eric Wood. The Bills went down and dominated the Dolphins in Miami on Thursday night. What stood out to you?
Yeah, it was an incredible performance on both sides of the ball for the Bills. For the first time in a long time, Josh Allen wasn't even necessarily the focal point of the offense. Instead, it was James Cook. And I loved how they were aggressive early on in the game. They went for it on that early 4th down, ended up getting a touchdown off of that. And then James Cook dominated, especially in the first half, on the ground. On the other side of the ball, the pass rush showed up for a second week in the row. And even before his injury in this game, they were putting consistent pressure on him. It was a really strong performance by both the offense and the defense.
Well, let's start on the offensive side of the ball with that gutsy 4th down call. How did Joe Brady scheme James Cook this wide open?
They do a great job with pre-snap motion here, and it allows Josh to understand that this is going to be man-to-man defense. And so, based upon man-to-man, James Cook's going to have the guy over the top of him, going to have to run across 2 crossing routes. Josh does a good job with his eyes, keeping the safeties in the middle of the field, and then just turns back, and he's got a wide-open throw for a touchdown. I love this play design by Joe Brady.
Now let's fast forward a couple of possessions. The Dolphins are going to go for it on their own 4th down. And then Ed Oliver comes up with a timely sack on this one. What did you see here?
Yeah, the weakness of this Miami offense is likely their middle 3 inside. The defensive tackles are going to have a big game, and Tua has the fastest time to release over the last 2 years in the entire NFL. So the defensive tackles are going to need to win in this game, and Ed Oliver here just completely dominates the left guard. And Miami, interesting, they run an empty set here on 4th and fairly short. Well, then Ed knows it's a pass, and he just dominates him to get the sack here and force the turnover on downs.
So after they stop that, on the very next play, James Cook snaps off a 49-yard touchdown run. Break this one down.
The Bills have loved this duo concept, and a lot of times it's like power without a puller. So you have double teams across the board. Here, the Bills essentially get a triple team on number 90 here that you can see in the screen. And so James Cook's job is to stack the linebackers over the top of the double team, and they make Long completely get lost on his read there. And then James Cook gets a crease, and then he outruns Poyer to the corner, showing off some of that speed for the touchdown.
All right, now let's get to the second half, and the defense gets rolling. A.J. Epinesa put the pressure on and forced a pick 6. What did you see here?
Yeah, this is interesting. So here they have 3 defensive linemen on the left side of the center. Ed Oliver's going to cross the face of the center. He's essentially just going to run the hoop around Von Miller. And then on the other side, A.J. Epinesa was actually lined up as a 3 technique over the left guard. He ends up just working. I'm not sure if this was a stunt or not, or if he's just working to an available pass rush lane, but Tua is initially going to see Ed Oliver, then he's going to scramble out into A.J. Epinesa, and that's great chemistry amongst 4 defensive linemen that have played a lot of football together.
That's great stuff as always. Thanks for this, Eric. We'll catch up with you after the Bills host the Jaguars on Monday Night Football.
Yep, looking forward to it, Steve.
Still to come on the Sean McDermott Show, Reid Ferguson is mic'd up for the Thursday night win over Miami. Then Sportsology takes a deep dive into some next-gen stats.
Mic'd Up is presented by Geico.
See him, little bro? Yeah. What's your record against him? 8-1. Nice. Nice. There's a chance I will. You get that?
Hey, what's one thing you guys are great?
Are you mic'd? You are?
You knew that.
I didn't know you're mic'd again.
Dude, you gotta get that out of there.
What?
You gotta tell me if I talk.
The camera's right there. Hey! For real?
For real.
For real. We're really going for it.
Back to pass. Allen wide open to Cook in the left flat, racing to the end zone. And is he in? Yes, he is. The Cook has found the kitchen. Here's the snap. Handoff goes to Cook, and a work through the middle, through a hole, and into the secondary. 30, 25, 20, 10, 5, flips into the end zone for the touchdown. 49 yards for James Cook.
There you go, 2. There you go, 2.
His 3rd touchdown of the game. And it is a raucous celebration on the Buffalo sideline. Oh, my.
Brother went for a little shove on me. Did he? So get away from me, Reid's brother. What a ball. That's insane. Mike Johnson. Did you see that throw? That is insane, bro. Me too. Oh!
Looking over the middle, pressure coming, has to heave it, and it's intercepted. Coming the other way, and going for 6 is Jamarcus Ingram.
J-Mark, dude.
With the pick 6?
He got 2.
Oh my gosh.
50 of them.
No way. What? Can't do it right now. I'm playing a game. Yo, this is Reid Ferguson, 31-10, got another dub in Miami. Go Bills.
Next up on the Sean McDermott Show, we break down some next-gen stats in Sportsology. Plus, hear Coach's final thoughts on facing the Jaguars at home on Monday Night Football.
Sportsology is presented by ECMC. ECMC, bringing hope and healing to Western New York.
In Week 2's matchup against the Dolphins, we had a hefty dose of letting James cook. Running back James Cook had 3 touchdowns in the first half. The most electric of the 3 had to be the 49-yard touchdown. Thanks to that beauty of a play call by offensive coordinator Joe Brady, we have some juicy stats from that touchdown. Cook had some wheels, reaching a top speed of almost 21 miles per hour per Next Gen Stats. That marks the fastest top speed on a play in Cook's career. Cook also generated 42 yards over expected on the run, meaning an average run in the same situation would only go for 7 yards. Cooks went for a whopping 49. The most jaw-dropping stat of this play? When quarterback Josh Allen handed the ball off to Cook, the play had less than a 1% chance of going for a touchdown. As the Bills build on plays like this, they'll try to keep defying the odds as the season moves along.
After the break, the crew from Buffalo Bills Weekly gives us their game preview for Monday's matchup with the Jaguars. Plus, Coach tells us what it will take to get the win on Monday night
to improve to 3-0.
Week 3 is on deck for Buffalo, a Monday night game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are 0-2 to start the season, and after their last loss to the Browns, quarterback Trevor Lawrence spoke to media and said, "We suck right now." Those are some harsh words, Chris, to start the season.
Harsh, but unfortunately for the Jaguars, accurate. The offense is having trouble sustaining drives, 5 of 19 on third down through the first 2 games, a 26% conversion rate is simply not going to get it done, and that's putting undue pressure on their defense to get additional stops to try to keep them in the ball game. Look, I think the Jaguars can run the ball with Etienne and Bigsby, but Trevor Lawrence has got to step it up. 51% completion rate through the first 2 games. There have only been 4 drops, so it's not really been on the receivers. It's been him with his decision-making and his accuracy. He's got to raise his game.
You know what else sticks out about Lawrence's performance so far and also speaks to the offensive line that the Jaguars have? He's been sacked 7 times. That ties for the 3rd most in the NFL. So if you think about how Buffalo on defense can take advantage of this, they're probably going to be able to get some pressure on Trevor Lawrence, which might force him into making some bad decisions. The Bills defense had 3 interceptions against Miami Dolphins last week.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Doug Peterson tries to really strip down the game plan and keep it simple so that Lawrence can get the ball out of his hand quicker. Some of those sacks have been on him. He's held the ball too long, indecisive. I think Peterson's going to try to equip him with a game plan that gets the ball out quickly.
Let's flip it over to the Jaguars defense. They have a tough defensive line. That's what they're known for. 3 of those defensive linemen who are starters were drafted in the 1st round. 2 of those 3 were drafted in the top 10, and they produce.
Yeah, they do. And I would argue the defensive front is the strength of this defense. Always seems to give the Bills problems offensively. And last year, week 5 was a perfect example of that. They averaged 2.1 yards per carry in the run game. Now, granted, that was with Ken Dorsey as offensive coordinator. I do believe the Bills are a better run team now, but Trayvon Walker is a guy you have to game plan for, and so is Josh Hines-Allen. And then they roll Eric Armstead off the bench, their free agent ad. So that's a trio of players that the offensive line is really going to have to be mindful of because they are potential game wreckers.
For more from Brownie and Maddy, including insights from players and coaches, plus exclusive interviews, check your local listings for Buffalo Bills Weekly, also available on Buffalo Bills YouTube.
Back home, coach, against the Jaguars, primetime Monday Night Football. It's a big stage, all of that stuff. You know, last year, 25-20 in London, if you remember. This is primetime at home, so going to be a different animal. You just got off a Thursday night game, you know, some days ago. But primetime at home presents some unique challenges.
It does. One
really,
thing is communication for our defense when it gets when it gets extremely loud. And so we try and work that through the course of the week in our preparation. But it's pretty vivid in our memory bank of what happened in London and the way that game went. So it'll be a big challenge for us. They're a well-coached team with a lot of talent. Some players that were once Bills are now there, and we wish them well, of course, and their families. But no, that's a good football team we're going to play.
Yeah, we'll talk about those guys in a minute. But you got Trevor Lawrence, who signed a 5-year, $275 million contract in the offseason. He's entrenched there. That'll be your 3rd time seeing him. The 2nd time being coached by Doug Peterson, who's a former NFL quarterback himself. What have you learned about Trevor Lawrence from your previous matchups with him?
Well, really good quarterback and got paid for it. He can move in the pocket. He's smart. He's won at the highest levels in terms of in college and what he did at Clemson there. And they're talented, right? They're talented on both sides of the ball and special teams. So, again, we've got to have our best foot forward and be ready to go.
So once again, 2nd game in a row, you've got a couple of your former players on the other team. Gabe Davis, 4 years here, had a really productive career here to get his career started. Mitch Morse, 5 years here, and was kind of a staple. Both those guys team captains at one point of their career here. You just went through this with Jordan Poyer against the Miami Dolphins. How does that presence of another player who was so important to this culture and the success of this organization, how does that change or impact your preparation for this game?
You know what? I don't think it does. I think more than anything, we're happy for those guys when they can go on and further their careers like they have. And at the same time, it's time to compete. And you saw that with Jordan and our football team and Saran, who was in Miami as well. And I think when you're a good team, people try and poach from your team, both staff and at the player level as well. It'll be a highly competitive environment come Monday night.
Okay, Coach, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Good luck on Monday night with the Jaguars, and we'll catch up with you next week. And to everyone at home, thanks for joining the Sean McDermott Show presented by Kaleida Health. We'll see you next time, and as always, go Bills.
Final Thoughts is presented by Toyota. Toyota is the exclusive and official vehicle of the Buffalo Bills. Toyota, let's go places. The Sean McDermott Show is presented by Kaleida Health, the official healthcare provider of the Buffalo Bills. By Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Call 716-684-COMP today. And by Toyota. Toyota is the exclusive and official vehicle of the Buffalo Bills. Toyota, let's go places.